Hello, and welcome to Mrs. PM Reads. I have to confess that I have been lying to you guys since chapter 50. So we are in Zoo by James Patterson and Michael Ledwidge. But we are not in book 3, we are in book 4. And we've been in book 4 since chapter 50. We are going to start this video in chapter 59. Now, in our last video, we read about a boat, a shrimping boat that was sunk by dolphins, just leaping out of the water and landing on the boat by the 100. So things are getting strange in the animal world. Let's see what happens now. All right, so this is chapter 59, book 4, and it's in the Karasaki Research Center in the Virunga Mountains of Rwanda. Barbara Hatfield doesn't know what time it is when she emerges into consciousness on top of the covers of her bed beneath the misty canopy of mosquito netting. Inside the dark, rough clapboard room and outside the windows, it is gray now. All time, space, matter comes in shades of sad, heavy, laden gray. She's still wearing her shorts and shirt and mud-encrusted jungle boots. She scratches at the hard pus of the mosquito bite under her greasy hair, scratches the skin on her arms and legs. She hasn't bathed in 4 days. Her eyes fall to the empty side of the bed beside her. She leans over and takes Sylvia's pillow in her hands, presses it to her face. The scent of her still clings to the fabric. Sylvia's smile as she's coming back from her run, fresh, flesh, glowing, slick with sweat. Her nimble hands are always doing something, fixing the 40-year-old compound's leaking roof, changing the Land Rover's oil, tending the garden. She looked so gorgeous with her arms and legs stained black with dirt up to her elbows and knees, and her hair held back, Rosie the Riveter style, in a bandana. She'd come through the door in that bandana and her weathered leather gloves, holding her clippers and a twine-bound bundle of weeds. And Barbara would want to grab her and kiss her so long and deep that Sylvia would have to push her away just to come up for air. Okay. This year-long grant was a once-in-a-lifetime scenario, a golden ticket for a primatologist. It provided enough money to live for a year in Rwanda with working, sorry. When I read to you guys, I try to read ahead so I can glance up. So sometimes I get lost on the page. Okay. It provided enough money to live for a year in Rwanda, working at the mountain gorilla research camp that Dion Fossey had made famous. Sylvia had thought it would be too dangerous, but Barbara had begged and cajoled and finally convinced her to put the community garden on hold for a year and follow her to Africa. They'd been returning from doing the yearly UN-required endangered species census of the mountain gorillas when the unspeakable occurred. Barbara was walking up the path to their cabin behind Sylvia when 3 silverback male gorillas emerged from the open front door. A moment later, there were gorillas everywhere, silverbacks and younger males. There was an electric fence around the camp, but the gorillas had somehow penetrated the camp's perimeter. They grunted through debris, leaped off the roofs of the cabins and outbuildings. Cargo crates clattered, and the air was a swirl of pounding, panting, huffing. Barbara remembers running into the jungle, her lungs burning as leaves and branches crunched and cracked behind her. Then she had looked back and noticed that Sylvia wasn't with her anymore. She mustered up the courage and came back to the camp that night to find everyone gone. All three Rwandan trackers, the four young men from the anti-poaching team, and Sylvia, all gone. In the bed, Barbara moans as she grasps at her throbbing head with her hands, trying to wring the memory from her brain as though it were a sponge. She had been quick to dismiss the fringe-level paranoid racket about HAC, the absurd buzzing of internet lunatics. She believed the theory was crackpot because she knows animals, gorillas in particular. But now she is having doubts. The behavior of all mammals, even mountain gorilla behavior, seems to have undergone a meltdown. She is in dire straits. The radio and generators have been smashed along with the guns. The nearest village is 30 miles away through mountain jungle so impassable they had to be airlifted here by helicopter. The next supply run is 48 hours away. 2 more days to get through, Barbara thinks. If the gorillas return, she will have no chance. She's sitting up in bed, rocking back and forth in despair. Then she feels something. It is a distinctly felt presence, as if Sylvia were there in the room beside her, watching, invisible. Not only that, but her lover seems pissed off at Barbara for doing the damsel in distress act, panicking and giving up. Have I taught you nothing? Sylvia's presence seems to say. Buck up, girl. Grow some ovaries. I've not heard that before. Barbara climbs to her feet, ripping aside the gray film of mosquito netting. Sylvia is right. She needs to do something. In a moment, she knows what. Behind the storage shed are barrels of gasoline for the generators. Barbara can fill up some canisters, douse the tree line, set it on fire. She hates thinking about damaging such a precious ecosystem, but it is a life and death situation. Her life and death specifically. Perhaps the smoke will attract attention from the villages in the valley, and perhaps someone will eventually come to investigate and get her out of here. She is coming out from behind the shed with 2 gas cans sloshing tinnily in her hands when she hears the crunch of branches off to her left. She turns. Her eyes fall on the tree line. She drops the gas cans. They tumble at her feet. Coming through the trees is something that defies imagination. About 200 yards away, rhinos are entering the clearing. 6 massive horned rhinos, which is impossible. How did they get here? Rhinos graze in the plains. They have to be within walking distance of water. Why would rhinos migrate 70 miles laterally and several thousand feet vertically from their natural habitat? What would she see next? Polar bears? The animals keep coming. There are more than a dozen rhinos now. The scene is so out there, so upside down, so wrong. As the creatures approach, a memory comes to Barbara. She is 11 years old, sitting in the front pew of a Baptist church with her family in northern Florida. The fire and brimstone preacher points out with a gnarled finger at the small crowd in the pews as he reads from the book of Revelation. And the first beast was like a lion, he said histrionically. turning his eyes to heaven. The second like a cat, and the third had the face of a man. End times, Barbara thinks, watching the giant animals step curiously amid the jungle underbrush. She is in such desperation that she almost begins to pray. Chapter 60. Well, now we're in Concord, Massachusetts. Mobilized out of Fort Drum, New York, Captain Stephen Bowen's 10th Mountain Division consists of 2 4-man fire teams, a small but elite unit. Side note, my son used to be part of the 10th Mountain Division. So that's why I'm like, Arrayed in the standard wedge formation, the men move as one up the wooded hill in their camos. Using hand and arm signals, they are silent, all but invisible. Standard operating procedure for combat patrol. The fact that their combat patrol runs alongside a bike path in Hapgood Wright Town Forest near Walden Park in Concord, Massachusetts, is definitely not SOP, though. It's more furbar than snafu. In Captain Bowen's opinion, this is about as screwball as it comes. Bowen's knows for a stone cold fact that what they are doing is illegal. They're supposed to be helping the cops direct traffic, not going out on search and destroy missions in a public park. And the orders, if you could call them that, are truly out there. Bowen, though only 27, was hardcore even before he did his 3 tours neck deep in the shit of Afghanistan and Iraq. The word infidel is tattooed across his chest in an arc of Gothic lettering and inked on his back under the Mountain Division insignia of crossed swords is his credo: killing. There is no substitute. That's his credo. Cap, down the hill, says King on point. Movement, 6 o'clock. What are you waiting for, soldier? Bowen says. Drop it like it's hot. King opens up with his M116A4. Bowen's eyes twinkle like strawberry shortcakes as the familiar ripping heavy metal clack of gunfire echoes across the hills. Is there anything better than guns unloading? He thinks. What else can make your eyes water and your such and such get hard at the same time? Shit, mutters King after 3 3-round bursts. Missed it. I think it's still coming. That obscene remark. Let me show you how it's done, Poindexter, Bowen says, parting the leaves as he steps forward. When he gets to the crest of the hill, Bowen mentally does a little Scooby-Doo. Directly in front of them, down the incline of a patchy deer path, are 3, what are they? Bowen thinks, dogs? He glasses them with the 10x binoculars. Foxes? About a dozen or so. Now, how about that? Rabid, bloodthirsty foxes. Whatever. Tally-ho. Bad word. Bowen says, dropping the glass and lifting his rifle smoothly to his shoulder. The new gun pulls left a bit when he pulls the trigger, but he manages to adjust. The men start laughing as they come down the hill. Shit, Cap. Didn't think we'd be going hunting today, says Chavez, poking at one of the dead foxes with the muzzle of his gun. Hope you understand, PETA will be getting an email. They camp for the night by a creek under an old train bridge 3 clicks to the north. There's a battered old couch there, a couple of sun-faded Coors boxes, and amateur graffiti. This night, air's making me feel romantic, Garner says, popping open an MRE. Any of you guys want to take a moonlight stroll? Okay, now it's just getting disgusting. Okay. Bowen sits Indian style beside the fire, zeroing out the rear sight of his rifle with an Allen wrench. He wonders if or when he should tell them the real reason they're here. 2 nights ago, there was an incident. A whole cul-de-sac of Cambridge Turnpike was massacred. He's seen the photos, some of the scariest shit he ever saw, which was saying something. One of the pictures he's having trouble getting out of his mind. Okay, it was a little boy that's dead. I'm not going to tell you because I don't want you to get the picture stuck. But it was a little boy that was killed. Wire that tight, ladies, Bowden says, glancing out the dark beyond the firelight. I know this is fun, but this ain't a frat party. This is a military op, so act like it. The attack comes a few minutes north of 0130. Bowen wakes to screaming and gunfire. Between 3 round bursts comes howling, guttural, snarling, inhuman noises, fairy tale monster type stuff. We got a effing ogre out there, he shouts, rising to his feet and grabbing his gun in one movement. If it's that bad, Bowen hears the whine and tiny crack of bullets singing by his ears. Watch your shooting lanes, Bowen barks. Watch your lanes. Someone throws a flare. The sudden light throws long shadows high onto the spindly black trunks of the trees. Some 20 feet away, galloping on all 4s up the shore of the creek, are bears. 4 of the biggest brown bears he has ever seen. If I'm pausing, it's because there's a swear word, and I'm not big on swear words. Bowden doesn't think. He yanks an M67 frag grenade from his vest, snaps off the safety clip, fingers the pin, and pulls the grenade away from the pin the way you're taught to. He holds the grenade for a moment, thumb off the safety spoon, letting it cook. Frag out, Bowen hollers and dives to one side as he tosses it. There is a flashing, soft thump, followed by silence. When someone chucks another flare, they can see that all 4 bears are down for the count. Off in the darkness, they hear the sound of other bears retreating, their paws splashing in the creek. Bowen scans his men, does a quick head count. Everyone in the squad is present and accounted for. He puts a hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat hammering, bang, 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 against his ribs, like a GD elf making shoes in somebody's basement. Bears in the wire? Good holy shit. That was close. This animal's rising up against man BS isn't BS after all. He turns. Out there in the darkness, beyond the firelight, across the water, Captain Bowen can feel eyes on them. A lot of eyes. And that's where we're going to stop. My goodness, there's a lot going on here. Rhinos in Rwanda and bears in Massachusetts. Not that those aren't animals that aren't in those places, but not with that behavior, not aggressive like that. Ooh, okay. Lots happening in this book. I hope you guys have a wonderful day with no rhinos and no bears, unless you're intentionally looking for them. Oh, I hope you come back next time. We'll see what happens with the rest of the book. And I will see you when you return. Have a great day.